Alright, what's up everyone? So I have my cup of coffee again, and we're outside this morning. And looking at the corn grow. I'm not sure if I'm going to put this up on a podcast at some point in time. Obviously, those of you watching the video can see the cornfield. They can hear the crickets chirping away this morning. It's a nice morning, getting a little cooler out. It's like fall now, which I kind of like. It's Midwest summers can get way too hot. But people really liked the previous video I had that was kind of like this, so we'll do another one here. And I want to take the opportunity to talk about different topics, and today it's going to be the topic of money and what specifically money is. And this isn't financial advice. It's not, business advice in the sense that I'm going to tell you how to make lots of money. I like the philosophical unraveling of things that we do in life that we just take for granted, and one of those things is money. And so I was talking to my wife this morning, a conversation I had with some other people the other day. It's like, what is money? Right? The kind of economic sense. It's a medium through which standardization of value allows for transactions to occur. So it's a currency. It allows you to have something that has value that's easy to carry. Instead of having to trade a TV for a loaf of bread, you can quantify how much a TV is worth or how much a loaf of bread is worth, and then you can use the currency, the money, as a medium of exchange. So $10 is what can buy you a loaf of bread. I'm not sure what bread you're buying that's $10, but we'll continue. Or, 1,000 loaves of bread would be $10,000, which might be a car. So you have some equivalents. If you hear that bird chirping, by the way, if you're listening to this, it's a cardinal that just flew by. I'm not sure if it got caught on camera. We get those out every now and then. A unique bird is cool. Cardinals are interesting. It's a male cardinal, so it's really red and looks like the ones you see on the baseball uniforms, and they're not very quiet, but they are pretty beautiful. So when I was thinking about the money aspect as we get back to it, I think money is a little more than just a medium of transaction, because it's almost like it's the operating cost required to sustain whatever existence you have. And the reason why this is important to think about is because how you view money changes how you interact with it. Some people view money as an attempt to make more money, which is fine, but that's not really a definition of money. It's a tool of money, I suppose. But it itself is not defined that way. I like the line that the best thing about money, the best thing you can have about money, if I said that right, is that you don't need money. It's that you don't need money. I totally butchered that, but essentially the ability to not need money is really important, or something that it can be of high value. That doesn't mean you make tons and tons and tons of money. It means you have an existence that has a low operating cost. And it's almost like if you've ever gone to a club, how there's a cover you have to pay sometimes to go to a club, like a $10 fee to go in. Well, if someone has a really large operating cost in their existence, they have a large house payment, a large car payment, a really expensive payments on furniture, or expensive taste in food, the operating cost of that existence is very high. So that's one aspect to look at money. It is a baseline operating cost. Some people will consider it like an energy in that sense because it can fuel certain endeavors. Another way to think about money is time. And the more money you have relative to your demands, again, it doesn't mean make tons of money. And the reason why I say this is because I watched a video which made me think about this the other day. A very famous botanist, I believe. He lives in the Appalachian Mountains. and he said like $10,000 a year, maybe less than that. He's lived off the grid for 50 years, and he talks about how money is not really an object, an issue. And I was like, wow, that's an interesting concept. He seems very happy. He pursues a wonderful breadth of academic endeavors, which I find interesting. And he is able to do this living off the grid, just fine, dandy, and happy. He built all of his own house and stuff, and so for him, this doesn't require much money to have lots of time, because time is spent separate of money being a cost. However, for people who don't have that opportunity and have an operating cost to live in an environment like a city or a house, and they can't live off the grid like this guy, then there's going to be some base level cost. And when you go and purchase a really expensive pair of shoes, say $200, that can be quantified into how many days of work it would cost to recover that. So in a way, money is time, because you spend time working, assuming your job is to acquire some money in whatever profession you do, and that's why you work. It's not just some pure extreme passion for whatever you do. I mean, you don't care if you get paid, but there's a certain amount of time associated with the recuperation of those funds. And then there's also the cost of, there's some aspect, like if you enjoy that, obviously, there's something intrinsic of value, but still there's like a quantifiable cost. And so I always thought about the way people view money to be interesting, and the reason why I'm eventually going to tie this together is because you go on to social media, and there's the hyper pursuit of physical goods, extrinsic value, showcasing worth, having fancy things and nice cars, and the number of gurus out there telling you how much you can do to make money, but no one actually talks about what money is and the purpose of it. Because in your situation, the value might not be derived from more money, it might be derived from a separate aspect of how that money is being spent, or the money relative that your operating cost. If you have more money in than more money coming out relative to your operating cost, then you have lots of time. So eventually you get to a point where you have enough funds or a means to accrue funds that you can operate on your own time. And this is something we take for granted. And someone who, myself, you own a house and you think about these things, and there's like these forever costs like property tax, electricity, heating, water. And there's an operating cost of money that has to exist, whether you're paying rent to even stay in that house. I remember we lived in Denver. It wasn't really in Denver, to be honest with you. It was like on the skirts. The rent was so high. And we didn't have any of the amenities of the city, so I'm not really sure what we were paying for. The living quality was pretty low relative to actually living in Denver, because you don't experiencing the cool stuff associated with the cost of being in Denver. And so it's like an extremely high operating cost, but little value derived from it. And so when you start to kind of look at certain aspects of life in that way, that things that are kind of existent at all times, money being something very obvious, you start to unravel it, the more you understand what it means to you, I think the better you can understand how to operate within the environment that requires the funds and money to be utilized. So I think a lot of times, this is personal assumption, that we don't actually look at what it is. We just look at how we use it, and we think of it as a tool to acquire goods and merely nothing else, versus it maybe is time. And if it's time, how would you value money that way? And what would you do to maybe allow yourself to have more time, if that's something you value, to pursue other things, other aspects and avenues that you might find interesting. And then you can pursue something in the arts, if you like painting, because you have more time, or maybe learn to play an instrument or another language, or go for more walks and enjoy aspects of your life, because the amount of time that we spend working in our life to acquire money, just to eventually no longer be on this planet one day seems very asymmetrical. I spend a lot of time sleeping and I spend a lot of time working, but the amount of time I actually spend enjoying the outdoors out here, or going on a walk, or enjoying community aspects, seems to be less and less and less. And that's unfortunate, but that's, again, a property of, I think money would be the root cause of that. I don't think many people would work if they had lots of money. I don't think that'd be the case. So it would free up time. But again, back to the social media aspect, it's just typically looked at as a means to acquire things, acquire shoes, outfits, cars, material objects. And when it's simply looked at through that lens, you're not looking at it through the whole spectrum that it can be used for. And so I like to think of it as time. And like I said, it's a means to maybe alleviate stresses, which can take up your time. Like you can pay someone to help put a fence in, or you yourself can put the fence in, I suppose, or pay someone to help repair something. But you only have that when you have the funds available for such. And again, the more people that pursue maybe the material objects, which is totally fine, but then that raises the cost of operating. And if you expect to have those certain things all the time, the operational costs become higher. And then you have to acquire the funds to pursue that operational cost. And then that becomes kind of a cyclic pattern of constantly increasing your demand, which means you gotta find more funds to facilitate those living aspects. And it never frees up any time in that way. You never create an asymmetry to allow for more time, because at the end of the day, we have a finite time here, and to be able to pursue things you like and enjoy, I think, is very valuable, and at times maybe even more valuable than the funds that you can acquire working. So that's just my 2 cents on it, and something I think we should think about more. And it might be useful for the listener out there, for whatever reason. Hopefully some value is derived out of it. And I'll leave you on the note that I butchered at the beginning, which is, I think the best thing about this, I think might be from a very wealthy person I met. Maybe I stole it from them. I trained some interesting people in my life, and they said something about, I don't make money to make money. I make money so I can not have to worry about making money. I can do the things I like. I thought that was pretty interesting. He's like, "That's the difference. Anyone can be rich," he said, "but only a smart person can make a lot of money and not have to do much." And I thought that was kind of a funny bit, because the nature of it all holds true in the fact that acquiring money for time, because the time we have, again, is finite, so you might as well do the things you like and enjoy. So I'll leave it there with you guys today. I'm gonna drink my coffee, continue